Okay. I think we are recording now, so welcome everybody out, and we will start sharing again. Okay. So last week we talked about turkey tail and all the wonderful things about it, and that it's a free medicine basically because it's readily available in this part of the country. If you got any access to any woods with any down timber in it, it's pretty much guaranteed there's going to be some turkey tail there. So anybody like to follow up on anything about the turkey tail from last week?
We came across something this week that said that you should not brew it for a long period of time. You should put it in and brew it like you would tea off the fire, so that you were able to continue to have all of the benefit from it. Because if you brew it or cook it for a long period of time, apparently that negates or destroys the active ingredients for it. So all these years I've been brewing my bone broth with turkey tail in it, so I haven't been getting the full benefit of it. So now before we do bone broth, I let it sit in the hot liquid, in the hot broth, so it will infuse it with the benefits of the turkey tail. But that was how long that we've been using turkey tail, and have just now learned that fact about it. So it's passing it on to you guys.
Yeah, I think it's been at least 10 or 15 years. So going over the markets today, markets were generally mixed today. Gold was up a little bit at 23.30. Had a limit order in for buying gold, the stock, and that did not get filled today. I had two previous fills and kind of dollar cost averaging down. And the other thing is the goldbacks were up a few cents today, and I thought I would introduce. Well, you'll be able to see this very well, but they've got a new product, which is a wallet, a goldback wallet. So you get the wallet basically for free if you buy all the denominations. So you get a 50 and a 25 and a 10, a 5 and a 1, and a nice free leather wallet. So I got these from New Hampshire, since that's the closest state to us. See, silver was up a little bit. Gold silver ratio is still 1 to 79. Tilt and zeros, the long-term bonds, they are both up about $1, which is the same thing they did last week. So looks like people think that serious about that we're going to have lower interest rates. Time will tell. So and wheat was down again, down to 548, and looks like it's going to go hit resistance at about 540. Stop there, hopefully. But I really believe that you should have a 1,000 bushels or so of this. Represents bushels. It's mighty cheap, and we know even from biblical prophecy that it's not always going to be that way. Also, DBA, which is the Agricultural Commodities Fund, that was up a little bit, and DBC, which is more energy and precious metals, It was up also since last week and today also. And the XAR military industrial complex that we've been following, that was up today, but it was kind of mixed. Lockheed was up, and Boeing was down, of course. So are we having world peace or not? Hard to say. Natural gas was up to 1994 today. The futures were actually down a little bit to 290. And Southwestern and Chesapeake were down, but LNG was up. Cost of production is still around 230. U.S. oil was up over $78 today, so that's kind of an indication of inflation. Either we will have it due to this, or this will drive inflation, one or the other. Bitcoin was down to around 65,000 today. Bits and BITI is the way to invest in that if you don't want to leave your brokerage account. And so pull back quite a bit on Bitcoin in the last week and Ethereum. So might be a good time to do some dollar cost averaging in that if you got some funds that you want to diversify a little bit. Looks like Ethereum, it's still below $3,500, but like I brought up the last couple of weeks, the Wisconsin Pension Fund has invested into Bitcoin ETFs. So I expect probably all 50 states to put a small percentage in that, now that Wisconsin has shown them the way. So the other thing that we've been talking about is a war on fossil fuels, a war on the middle class, a war on cash. It looks like the Fed now and the Federal Reserve is getting really serious about these Fed Now accounts that are open to everyone now. So that will be kind of a de facto virtual currency or whatever, but it's another reason to use cash when you can, while you can. Try to keep it around as long as possible. Also have a war on food, war on gardens in some states and places, war on meat in particular. And then there's the war on cancer, which looks like they've surrendered on that war. Cancer's rates are at an all-time high, especially colorectal, and affecting children at younger and younger ages. So seasonal information, probably getting a little late to plant trees, but it is time to propagate some trees like blueberry bushes, and comfrey plants can be propagated now. Can plant that fall garden soon. You can plan your harvest. Just need to check our bees, those of us who have them, and maybe start doing some harvesting. We're going to talk about some harvesting tonight in our main topic. So, and I also highly recommend that you, especially if they put them on sale, go ahead and buy your seeds for next year, just in case was any kind of shortage. And everybody should have their potassium iodine, just in case also. So now's the time that we talk about things that we'd like to share with one another, of things we've accomplished or want to accomplish, or anybody have anything in the last week that they want to share with the group?
Somehow the weeds in my garden are taller than the plants I planted. And I'm not seeing any rain. So I was talking to Liz this morning, just saying maybe I need to start watering the garden so the ones I want to grow get taller than the weeds.
Yeah, that's what happens when you go gallivanting around and leave your garden all alone
They just grow while you're not here.
while you're not looking.
Yeah.
Even when you're looking.
Well, yeah, you're already talking fall gardens, and I'm still hoping for tomato blossoms.
I've got tomatoes, but they're green.
I don't even have tomatoes on my plant yet.
But about a few of those early girls, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not a great tomato, but they are quick and early.
He buried them deep. It was the ones from the FFA group.
Uh-huh.
Matter of
Cool.
fact, they're growing so well that I showed this last week, but they've grown a little bit. But I had big suckers on those, and I cut those suckers off and put them in this vase or jar or glass, whatever it is. And you can probably see down here the root structure.
Yeah, they're starting.
They're reading quite well, so I'll use that as my fall garden plants, because around here it seems like, come August, your tomatoes that you planted earlier are about done, and so I can have new plants for the fall without buying them or planting a seed.
It's nice.
So I got so enthused about that, and I remembered something else, and so this is a similar situation. These vases all have cuttings that I bought for sign wood for grafting. And you buy this for like $5 a stick. And since I was kind of busy at the time that I should have been grafting these things, and some of them I planned to do this anyway, but I'm just rooting them just like those tomato plants. And I didn't show it last week because I wasn't sure how successful it's going to be, but they're looking, most of them survived, even though they were in the refrigerator since February or March. And
what are they?
Well, we have, I think this vase is all mulberries, which should do pretty good anyway. And this is the small blackberries, not raisins, but what they use is raisins over currants, yes, black currants. And this is a gummy berry, two of them, and this one didn't seem to green up, but this one's growing quite well. And this vase has various apple trees in it.
Mm.
And this one was one of the failures. This had peaches and things like that in that field, peaches and nectarines. Those did not blossom out at all. Doesn't look like they're going to make it. And this one had 4 apples, and 3 of them look good. And then this one is elderberry, and I'll actually be able to multiply these into more than one plant. So some of them have down low, you can't see, but have green branches down below that I can just slice off with a razor blade and get those to root also.
Nice.
So, anyway, but this is a way to get a possibly $50 tree for $5. a stick. Maybe even cheaper than that if you make two out of them sometimes. So just buy the sign wood and instead of the tree. You can root it.
You just have to be super patient and a little bit of a green thumb to keep it going from a stick to a tree.
Yeah. Mhm.
And keep it alive until next spring.
Yeah, get it potted up at the right time as it starts getting more roots. Because if you don't, I had some things I ordered earlier this year, and they were going along just fine, and until I transplanted them, and then they were growing for a while, but they all died eventually.
Rats.
And Mark, he's muted now, but he probably knows what this is all about. He had some accomplishments over the last. You want to talk about your accomplishments, Mark?
So I want to thank a few gentlemen who came out and helped with some hay getting out of the field. We got about 500 to 600 bales of hay here this last week, and probably have another 100 to 150 bales that we're going to get up tomorrow. And that was a real big help. Had a couple medical issues with the family here and during that time, and just really helpful to have some people with that.
All the hay.
And then that's quite a bit of hay. Yeah, quite a bit of hay. Good first cutting, late first cutting. It's got a lot of rain here in the last month and a half, and kind of postponed it. And it got a little bit taller than what I'd like, but we were able to cut it down. And so that was nice. And I'm looking right out here, and right now I'm kind of out by my chicken coop. So if you hear some chickens in the background, or even some ducks or geese chime in, that's what's going on. And I'm just looking at my blackberry bushes. They're about ready for me to start picking some off of there before the birds get to them. And
Wow.
probably what I'll do a little bit this evening here. And I think I've got a raspberry bush down by my elderberry. See if that's ready.
Yeah, it should be. It's a primocane, right? So here's our herbal plant of the day for identification. The photography is not too good, so I'm going to give a hint. It's a culinary herb that everybody should have close to their kitchen door, and it's in bloom.
And if you take it and do the oil with it and make a tincture out of it, it's really good for your breathing. So Tammy, you should be able to guess it.
Tammy has this.
I do not know what it is. We have some herbs, but none of them are flowering like that. So
I think Tammy's on mute, but anyway, this is oregano, and it's real easy to just pull one of these up and restart it someplace else, or pull one of these up and strip the leaves off from top to bottom, and put it in about any dish you're making.
what's do you have to replant it every year?
No, it's a perennial.
Okay.
Once you
It's
get
a perennial on our south face of our house.
and it'll pretty
But
much
will survive the winter.
It's been there for at least a decade.
Yeah, the only problem I have is that getting too thick and crowding it out. But if I use a stalk of it at least every day, it keeps it about the right thickness.
Okay.
So, but a lot of medicinal properties and very nutritious. Okay, the main topic that we're going to talk about tonight is, have you heard the saying, waste not, want not? My parents were kind of the product of the Depression and World War II, and they went through a lot of times where things were not readily available. And I heard this saying a lot from my mother, especially, waste not, want not. And so can you think of any reasons that this might be an appropriate topic in this day and time?
Yeah, unpredictable supply chains.
And unpredictable prices.
Yeah.
I think as Americans, we are incredibly blessed. We are not used to waiting for anything. We
Yeah.
want it right away. It's cluttering my room, so I throw it away instead of saving it for another time. I've got so many of them, I don't know what to do with them, so I give them away. Right? And I think with times that are coming, it's going to very quickly, people who are kind of in that mindset are going to be not really happy with life, right? I think that they're going to realize exactly what you said, Winston, why their grandparents saved that or held on to that, right? We're in an easy come, easy go world, and in a waste not, want not world, it is not an easy world.
And the thing that, and I understand why they're doing it, but there's two families in our ward that are moving out right now, and they're giving away all their food storage because they don't want to have to move it, and they think it's prohibitively expensive, and it may be, but it scares me for them that they get on the other end, and something happens before they get a chance to get that replenished.
If they can get it on the other end.
Yeah.
Right. I think food storage is another one of those tricky things, though, is that it's kind of like the Noah's Ark. They were told that a flood is coming and a flood is coming and a flood is coming, and people started mocking that because the flood didn't come, and then they stopped caring, essentially, and then the flood came, and then they're all going to go, well, we used to have food storage, but we didn't think we needed it anymore.
Yeah. Nobody's talked about it since the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so the other thing I'm going to throw in here, the other quote is, "Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food." Anybody know how far that goes back?
Hippocrates, was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So all the way back to early Greece, I guess.
Mhm.
And matter of fact, the other, I thought the waste not, want not just went back to the Great Depression, but apparently that goes back at least into the late 1500s when it started. So kind of interesting. I looked it up.
When it was first recorded,
Yeah,
maybe.
they said it a little different in Old English, but it's still remained the gist of it. So
There is another quote of use it up or do without. It's got several different layers to it, but basically recycle, can use every part of it and don't get rid of it until it's completely gone. Think about the quilts that your aunts, nobody in my family did the quilting that I have any memory of, but his aunts would do quilting, but they would take scraps from people's clothing and make a new quilt with it. Winston's mother one year literally saved the flour sacks and made her professional wardrobe as a school teacher out of flour sacks. I remember her telling me about that. And she was careful with every single thing that they bought.
it sure was.
That's when flour sacks were printed with pretty designs on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now they're just paper.
Sometimes at Walmart, you don't even get good paper. So tonight we're going to talk about 3 things that normally get thrown away instead of used up or recycled or whatever, that could be your food or your medicine. And so one of these I just discovered in the last week, and then I started thinking about, you know, what's other things that would be along those same lines. Sound, but optimize for video. Let's do this one first. And it's about making zucchini flour, which I'd never heard of until last week. Any y'all familiar with it?
I am. I've done some reading on it, especially how to do it, process it through the freeze dryer, turn it into flour. But most people are saying that they wouldn't use it 100%. They would still blend it with another, either wheat or I can't think of the other grains. There were a couple of other grains that it talked about, but I've never tried it. But it was interesting because zucchini is on right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that was my biggest point, is that, you know, this is the time of the year that people have these humongous zucchini that, you know, you really can't eat. You know, they're tough and they're, you know, and they put them in people's cars and stuff like that, you know. And so that's a resource that's totally getting thrown away or wasted, that could be made into a very nutritious product. So anyway, I'll go through this kind of short video, but talks all about it.
Now it is pumping out the zucchini. Here we have 5 gigantic zucchinis. Look at this. I mean, I have kind of little hands, but that is a monster zucchini. And I've cut them up. I've made zucchini chips, which my family, they're okay. They're not potato chips, let's put it that way. But we've made zucchini chips. We have sauteed zucchini. We have shredded zucchini. So today I'm going to make zucchini flour. So stick with me and I'll show you how it's done. So I have washed my zucchini and I have cut the ends off my zucchini. And now basically what I'm going to do is slice them into uniform slices. You can see this zucchini is a little too mature. It's got the seeds in it, and I probably wouldn't even want to like saute it because it's got the thick seeds in it, but this is perfect for making zucchini flour because once you get it all ground up, you know, it's not going to matter. So yeah, so I've washed the zucchini. This is about 12.5 pounds of zucchini, I believe, and I'm slicing it. I could use a mandolin to make these slices thinner, but not really necessary. Just slice them up so they're uniform thickness, and then you're going to get them in your dehydrator. Okay, so I've got my zucchini all sliced up and loaded in my dehydrator. I'm going to turn it on. This one has an adjustable thermostat, so I'm going to put it on about 135, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Unfortunately, I ran out of dehydrator trays for this particular dehydrator. I do have another dehydrator, but I don't really have a place to set up a second dehydrator. So we're just going to do this batch, and then the rest of the slices, I think I'll put in the refrigerator and try dehydrating those in a day or so once these are all done. So my zucchini chips have been in my dehydrator for about 24 hours at about 140, 145 degrees. You should let them cool, and then when you take them out, they should just snap in half. If they're still pliable, they are not dry enough. Whoop, but these are clearly dry. They're kind of remind me a little bit of like styrofoam, actually. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to break them up into smaller pieces with my hand. This is going to make it easier for me to put them in my coffee grinder, and I'm going to use this, I think it's a KitchenAid. Yeah, KitchenAid coffee grinder to grind them into flour. You could probably use, you might be able to use a blender or a food processor. I'm not 100% sure. I always just use my coffee grinder for my powders because it does a really good job of making a super fine powder. I think probably some other machines might not make quite as fine of a powder. Alright, so let me crack these all, break them all up. Nice and friable, that's what we want. I've broken my zucchini pieces, my zucchini chips into smaller pieces. Next, I'm going to place my coffee grinder on a plate. I find this is better for catching the dust that inevitably spills over from the machine. Now, unfortunately, with something like this, you can't do a ton at one time. It's a little bit of a slow process, but it works. Powders, be careful. Let the powder settle a little bit before you take the top off, and don't breathe in heavily because you'll inhale powder. You can see a little bit of, maybe you can see a little bit of zucchini powder. Okay, so I like to sift my zucchini powder, or really any of my powders, as I put them in my jar. This is a quart jar that I'm using here. And this just makes sure that I get all of the clumps. If you don't sift it, that's okay too. It's not going to be the end of the world. You just might have, little bits of zucchini in whatever you're using with. Now, your zucchini flour, you don't want to use just zucchini flour because it doesn't have any gluten in it. So you could substitute 1/3 of the flour in your recipe with zucchini flour. So 2/3 regular all-purpose flour, 1/3 zucchini flour. Also, be aware that zucchini flour, at least to me, has a slightly sweet taste. It's not super sweet, but to me it's noticeable. So you might take that into account when you're cooking. I don't know how it would taste in something savory, like a breading on like fried chicken or something like that. It's probably best for baked goods or anything where a tiny, tiny bit of sweetness is not going to be necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so here are the pieces that didn't go through my screen, and I'm just going to throw those back in here. Do those again, and I'm going to add more. A little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this zucchini powdered, and then I'll show you the final product. Here we go, all finished. This is my zucchini flour. It's kind of got a very light green color to it, consistency of flour. My dehydrator, one load in my dehydrator made about 1/2 quart. I'm going to go ahead and dehydrate the other batch of zucchini that I had from that 12-pound harvest, and when it's all said and done, I should have pretty close to 1 quart of flour. Good way to add nutrition to your baked goods and to use up some of those zucchini if you're getting monster zucchinis out of your garden. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll talk to you later. Hey folks!
Okay, so pretty easy peasy. You don't get a lot of production, it sounds like, out of it. The other thing I read in another place was that if you have a recipe that uses almond flour, you can substitute that one for one for the amount that's calls for almond flour. So just another trick or whatever. But what she brought up about breading chicken with it, that sounds interesting, since we're trying to not eat wheat flour, so that might be a good way to bread some American breasts. So the next one, that something that's thrown away that we shouldn't throw away because it's quite medicinal and can be put into bread, is corn silks. Just be sure that it's best if the corn silks are from immature corn, like what's picked for sweet corn or roasting ears. Apparently it has more nutritious more nutrition at that point than ones that are dried out flint corn or field corn. So, and you would want to be aware of where I wouldn't do this with store-bought corn, but aware of where it was grown and what conditions it was grown in. So, go on to corn silks. Don't throw them away.
No, you can't have this. I need this corn.
Kind of one of those self-pollinating plants, and so this is actually considered more of like the female aspect of the plant. And if you can see all the silk here in the top, basically when a corn stalk grows, up on top you'll see the male aspect of the plant where the pollen that kind of flows in the wind and then eventually drops down onto the corn, and that is basically how the corn actually grows. It then pollinates itself. It's self-pollinating. Now our bees do tend to pay some attention to the corn, but they don't actually need necessarily the bees for them to be able to produce corn. So I'm going through and I'm harvesting some of the corn that we'll be preserving later, but this is actually considered herbal medicine. So I actually use corn silk as a tincture, and it's really good to have. And why not harvest it and do something with this, which would essentially be considered waste if you were pulling all of this corn, shucking it, starting to can it, starting to prepare it. But a lot of people don't realize that corn silk actually has medicinal properties. The scientific name for corn silk is Z's maize, which I'll put that down below. And what I'm doing is just going ahead and shucking it. I've got my corn in the colander, and I have a bowl up here because whatever I don't use, this won't go to waste. We can either compost it or feed it back to our animals. I can tell you right now, our pigs absolutely love the husks from the corn, as well as the cows. I didn't catch this on video, but when I was picking the corn, one of our baby cows thought it would be a really good idea to put his head through the fence. He grabbed an ear, and yes, he pretty much ate it. You want to get the really nice, silky white corn silk right here. The stuff that's at the top, that's not necessarily bad, but I kind of want it to be nice and clean because it's going to look beautiful in a tincture. Now when it comes to corn silk, there's a few different ways that you can actually use it. This is dried corn silk. I would use this in a tea, for an infusion, something that you want to drink. But for fresh corn silk, we were always taught that fresh is best. And this is what I would use for my tincture. So I have my empty mason jar here, and for fresh corn silk, I will tell you, there are a few different formulas that you could actually use. You could do a 1:5 ratio with 25% alcohol. I actually use a 1:2 ratio with 50% alcohol, which is 100 proof. What I'm gonna do is chop this up, fill my jar, not gonna pack it up too far, and then pour my alcohol in it. I do think that corn silk is probably one of the most underappreciated medicinal plant products that you can easily come by, whether you grow yourself or you go to your local farmer's market and purchase some yourself. This could be used for so many things, and I personally have experience using it. This is one of the reasons why that I always have a tincture of corn silk ready for me to use it, as well as having an option for dry. The part that we're using of corn silk is the stigma, which is the female flower. Some of the medicinal properties that corn silk offers are, it is a diuretic. It's also considered an anti-inflammatory, it's a demulcent, and it is considered a tonic for your overall bladder health. Now, there are properties in corn silk that will actually help break up stones, kidney stones, bladder stones. It's also been used for cystitis, as well as for strengthening the bladder when it comes to nocturnal bedwetting. Because corn silk is considered a urinary demulcent, it is very soothing, especially when it comes to cystitis. It also helps with any type of inflammation that you have going on in your bladder or even your prostate. I only cooked about 7 ears of corn, and I was able to fill a nice quart-sized jar. I mainly just want to make sure that the corn silk is all the way covered with a 50% alcohol, which is 100 proof, and I am using a vodka. Made sure all of the corn silk is completely covered. I'm going to label this with the date and the alcohol proof that I'm using, which is the menstruum, to cover our corn silk all the way. And we're going to store this in a cool, dark place for roughly 30 days, maybe a little bit longer. And every day I'm going to come back through here and I'm going to check it and shake it just like this. And in 30 days time, I'm going to press it out, store it in an amber colored bottle, and be able to use it to help support my own personal bladder health, as well as anybody in my family that might be struggling with kidney stones or cystitis. Now, for dosing, after this is done, you want to do about 5 to 10 milliliters up to 3 times a day if this is a tincture form. Now, if you're using dried corn silk to make an infusion, your dose would be 2 to 4 teaspoons of dried corn silk to 1 cup of water. Let it steep for about 10 to 15 minutes, and you're going to want to drink it up to 3 times a day. The other thing that I have been known to do is when I am making corn for dinner, I will shuck it myself and then boil that water. And I've actually drank some of that water from boiling our corn when it comes to cooking dinner. Now, that you can put in the refrigerator for just a short period of time if you have an abundance of it. I have about 100 more ears of corn that I've got to shuck and get ready to go ahead and get them preserved. But I really wanted to take you guys and show you guys the medicinal properties of corn silk, how to do it, why to do it, and why not to throw it away. I mean, I know that this would be considered waste for somebody, but it has a lot of medicinal properties, and again, it's probably one of the most overlooked medicinal herbs that is so easily and readily available. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and learn something new. Bye, guys.
Okay, thoughts or comments?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, same here.
I had, and it is actually quite medicinal. Nicole introduced me to it because it's supposed to have good things for prostate as well as bladder and kidneys. So the whole urinary tract for both males and females.
Excellent.
And I get the same thing basically that she said over here from Copilot. Anyway, it says it's a diuretic, an anti-inflammatory, a blood sugar regulator, heart health, and kidney support. So about anything that ails you is good for you. And one thing I picked up on that she didn't talk about is the silks. If you just collect them and don't just maybe shorten them a little bit, but leave them long and just throw them in a dehydrator or someplace to dry out, and then store those, and then you can just pull out a wad of that and make a tea. And since you didn't grind it up or anything, you just strain it through your teeth. You don't have to worry about straining the tea or anything. As if you had made a powder out of it or whatever. So it's just handy to just make a tea with that, and maybe add something else to it also, like some mint or oregano or all kinds of possibilities there. Anyway, so one other one that's also from Kayla here. Oh, and the tincture. If you kind of the rule of thumb is the more moisture that you have in the product that you're tincturing, the higher the alcohol content should be. So, like if you dried the silks out and then made the tincture out of that, you could use a lower alcohol concentrate, like by half. So that's, if it's wet, it's got to have more alcohol content. So this is another thing that's often thrown away by beekeepers or not used. And it only takes about an ounce of it to make medicine for one person for a year. So, and then Liz will probably talk about other ways to use propolis, but let's go.
Cleaning up frames and harvesting honey. We were side catching all the propolis. So now we're going to show you what we're going to do with it.
And this is one thing that I think if any beekeeper could save, it would be propolis. Now, a while ago, I was asked if there was one specific thing that I would have in my apothecary, have at our apothecary. I don't know what her one specific thing is, but for me, the one specific thing that I would have is propolis. And the reason is because it is full of antimicrobial, antifungal, antiviral. It has so many properties in it, and you got to think about what the bees are actually doing. Now, propolis, if you are new to beekeeping and if you are new to herbalism, propolis is actually a byproduct that the bees create. And what they're doing is the bees are going out and they're foraging among hundreds of different trees, and they're collecting the tree sap, they're collecting that resin, they're bringing it back to their colony, and they use propolis to keep their entire colony healthy. And so when you're a beekeeper and you're doing hive inspections,
It's worth saving, definitely worth saving. Just like the bees use the propolis to guard their colony, we're going to use the propolis not quite the same way as the bees do, but that same concept, and we're going to use it to protect and guard
our
ours.
throat, especially our throat. Now, you can take propolis orally. I've used it on my skin for cuts or anything that could potentially become infected. The alcohol proof that we're going to be using on this one is actually going to be 190 proof, which is a 95% alcohol.
Right.
So with that, here's the thing. I recognize that there's not everybody that can get that high of alcohol to be able to make this tincture. It's even kind of challenging for us to be able to get that. Now this one I used a 100 proof, which is a 50%
Alcohol, right.
So not bad. It still works.
It's not as strong if you
Yeah,
taste
it doesn't.
directly.
Yeah. So not bad. If you got to do what you got to do, you got to do what you got to do, and that's kind of the way that I've accepted it, and what I've come to terms with.
Well, you're still extracting
Correct.
some wonderful properties from
And
the
the
propolis.
main thing that we're focusing on is shelf life stable. That's what we're focusing on.
At least 50%
Right.
alcohol.
So great if you have it. If you have a higher alcohol, use it. If not, use it. Use what you got.
Called wild crafting.
It is.
sometimes.
It is
really
wild
is.
crafting. So with this one, we're gonna
be a little more precise.
little more precise. So I'm shooting for 1 ounce
By weight.
by weight of propolis, which is what I got. I got 1 ounce. And so,
Let's put that in the jar.
yeah. Okay, so I've got my 1 ounce.
And then we got to turn that around again so we can see, and then we'll pour from here into there and get 5 ounces.
Okay. So now we need
5 ounces.
Okay. So that is 5 ounces of my 95%. Good thing is it completely covers it, which is what we're looking for. I probably should have used a smaller jar.
Well, if
But-
we actually have enough menstruum that you could probably double that. So go ahead and let's
Let's
measure.
just see. Go ahead and let's just see if we can get 5 more ounces, because then I'll add 1 more ounce to of this. Yeah, we can.
Oh.
So then, perfect.
I measured a little heavy anyway, so I think we're okay.
It's fine. It's totally
It's
fine.
gonna be
it's
fine.
It's all fine.
But now we need 1 more ounce.
All right, so we've got to get 1 more ounce.
Oh, that was a chunk.
1 ounce.
Okay. Look at that. Doesn't even look like we put a dent in it.
Okay. So now, what we're gonna do is we are gonna label this. It's already starting to pull that beautiful color. What's cool about propolis is I've noticed, depending on where you're at, you'll see all different shades of propolis. I've seen really, really dark propolis. We tend to have extremely lighter, gold rich propolis. And that's really dependent upon the trees and their surroundings. So the next very most important thing that you should do when you're making a tincture is label. What we do then is, because this is probably one of the most asked questions, is okay, now what? So we let it sit. We let it sit for minimum of, really it's minimum like 6 to 8 weeks ish. 4 weeks acceptable, but you're gonna want to shake it every single day. You're gonna want to mix it up. This one we've kind of been, adding to along the way. You can see how beautiful and rich it is. Not bad. Still keeping this. This is definitely my go-to. Now, perfect. When you label the tincture that you made, you're gonna put your date, you're gonna put your ratio, which we're using a 1 part propolis to 5 parts of your menstruum, and then exactly what it is and what percent alcohol that you used. And you're gonna store it in a cool, dark area. Don't leave it out necessarily in the sun. We have a whole cabinet underneath here, which is where we keep everything. It tends to be very cool in here, but if you have a basement or if you have a pantry, you can absolutely put that in there. When you're done with it. So this is the part. This is what we kind of need to do. The goal that we're trying to achieve is, this is our older one, but see how it starts to break down all of the chunks, all of the resinous chunks. So for the next step, which we're gonna show you because honestly, we need to do this anyways. But
right here.
Right. So what you're gonna need for this part is an amber colored bottle. Now you can purchase these bottles online. We save some kombucha bottles that we purchase from the store. Aldi's sells little kombuchas for like $1.99, so we'll save some of those kombucha bottles for fire cider or whatever if we want to take it and go. Very good little important fact. But the amber color bottle has a very important role in your tinctures.
And it's because the sunlight will break down the medicinal properties. So that's why the amber bottles are very beneficial. It just keeps it stable and keeps it at the highest quality that that you've got for all the work and effort that you've done.
Agreed. The other thing that you'll use is a stainless steel funnel that fits in your bottle. We have probably like 8 different sizes because 1 ounce, obviously that's not going to fit. All the way up to, this is a 16 ounce. Right. This is a 16 ounce. Then a
stainless steel mesh strainer. Stainless steel
It's just easier to clean.
It's easier to clean,
Yeah.
and you get your bang for your buck.
Right. The other thing that we'll often use are the unbleached coffee filters and or unbleached cheesecloth. We're just going to use the cheesecloth because it's easy. And so what we're going to do.
Sometimes it's hard to get it
No.
started.
So our hands are very clean. Sometimes you can wear gloves with this. This is strictly for us. So
You want me to hold it?
no, I think I'll do.
And I will say too, from experience,
That works.
do it over a tray, a lipped tray.
Don't
Like
don't ask why.
You'll find out why.
Let me
We'll
just continue to clean up my mess over here. So yes, a tray that has a lip is very helpful. All right, let's pour this bad boy. Look at that. Now, you guys have heard me talk about pressing it out, straining it out. We do have a press that we'll use when we're doing like big bulk, you know, because we want to get all of that goodness out of it. Yeah. And so we just let it sit, and now it's dripping. And again,
It's about up to here, guys.
the other important thing to do is to label what you
What's in that wonderful amber bottle?
put in it, because I'm gonna tell you.
We can pick out fire cider very easily.
Oh, yes.
In dried form, in pill
Yes.
form.
But what happens is, you know, if you're anything like us, you get started on a project and then you got to go over there and do that project, and by the time that you come back, you're like, oh, what was this? You know? So
Or when did we do that?
always label it. Put it out there. You'll thank yourself later. Now this is gonna set for a little bit while it's doing its last minute drip. So this is a little 1 ounce bottle. This is kind of my little to-go. I take it with me, put it in my purse. We have a little first aid kit that I also have some in. Shake it up. Okay, you want all of the properties. Now you can't really see through it, but you want to be able to mix it up, because what happens is the sediment tends to go down to the bottom. If you want to get the proper dose, go ahead and shake up all of your tinctures. Now, you can do this. My little dropper full. Those are the drops. You can do this up to 5 times a day if you're using it in for your throat. I have seen some people put it in a little spray bottle to be able to spray the back of their throat.
Their tonsils,
Yeah,
especially.
tonsils. You know, just if you've got something going on, again, what do the bees use propolis for? That's that same mindset of what we're using it for. We've even heard propolis used as a reference as a liquid resinous Band-Aid.
Yep.
So, you know, it's going to coat, it's going to...
It's putting the shield up.
Yes.
It's putting that barrier up. And what better way to any type of germ that can enter through, and you can put a barrier up, heck yeah.
do it. So now I've seen you can do about 5 drops, which would, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to like 2 mLs roughly.
About a quarter of a teaspoon or
Quarter of
something
a
like that?
teaspoon. When I'm using propolis, it's I gotta get this in me now, so I'm going for it.
You can also do it here.
You could do it on your hand. I let it sit back at the back of my throat. That's what I want. But it's
It's like a
smell.
1,000
different trees.
I still.
It's very floral.
Yeah, I have a very strong floral note, unless that's your cottonwoods.
Yeah, well, we do. We have a lot of cottonwood, but I immediately feel like a film.
Well, that's that liquid Band-Aid.
You know, it's that liquid Band-Aid, and so I'm using it for my throat. I'm using it to just give myself that extra shield. Whether you're a beekeeper or not, you can actually purchase already propolis tinctures.
Yeah.
They have it. It's out there. But if you're a beekeeper, if you know a beekeeper, this is my #1 go-to. And I think more people should learn about it. More people should do research. I remember I wrote an article, and it was basically talking about how the scientists can't truly, they've only been able to come up with up to 300 different tree species of resin in one colony, and that's based on
That
where that
location,
colony
right?
is. So they haven't even been able to truly understand all the properties. Now we've got cottonwood here, we have pine,
cedar.
I mean, there are so many different trees create so many different resins, and the bees they're using it for themselves. And why not take what would be considered waste and turn it into something that you can use? And yeah, that is beneficial. So I hope that if you guys are at the Homesteaders of America conference this year, which is coming up very soon, I hope that you guys come see us. We're going to be there. I will have our jar of propolis.
That was so much fun.
I was very excited to see all the people
Yes.
that started collecting their propolis and making tinctures. So if that is one thing good that we are doing, I think
That's right.
That's
That's
what
what it's all about. We share our knowledge and our experiences, and hope it put it out there, and hope it can do good for you too.
Yep.
And so do we. We share our experience and our knowledge with each other. So, any thoughts about propolis?
I can tell stuff.
Go ahead.
Winston has had one of his coworkers who has come to get some propolis from us. Oh God, goodness, it's been since COVID, wasn't it, that Boris came out?
I think so.
He traveled from Northern Virginia to come down and get propolis because he's from Russia, and his family always used the vodka to make a tincture so that they could use it when they got sick. And so he was wanting to get local propolis and came and got it from us, but made the trip, like I said, 90 miles round both ways just to get it so that he would have it for the rest of the year or whatever. We haven't seen him back since, but anyway, we do have people who are interested. But I have a tooth, it's a wisdom tooth that has got a cavity, and the dentist has been trying to figure out how to get to it, but none of her equipment can get up in there to do anything with to fill that cavity because it is so close to my cheekbone. She would just tear up my gums if she went in to work with that tooth. So she's trying to find a way to seal it, but I knew that there was something going on, so I took propolis and shoved it up there where the cavity is. And then she wanted to check on it in another month. She came back, oh, it's nice and solid and hard. But I just told her because she is not from America, and she buys honey from us. And I said, I put propolis on it. Oh, that would be wonderful. Well, her hygienist was kind of looking at us like we were a little crazy. She's got the wax, it's got the waxy quality to it. That'll hold it onto your tooth. Oh, and the antibiotic effect of it. Oh, that's a wonderful one. So I'm trying to remember to do it, but if I've gone 2 or 3 days without putting the propolis back on there, then I begin to sense something's going a little off, put it on there, and it holds my tooth for another 4 or 5 days before I need to put it on there. Again, have to put it on there. So it's going to maybe hold my tooth instead of having to lose a wisdom tooth at 68 years old, which I'm rather willing to go to that effort.
So Liz, it sounds like your propolis is like pliable. I find that ours is hard. We call it bee glue because they glue hives together with it, etc.
I have to pinch off just about what would fit under my fingernail. It's not even, it's just a sliver, but I will get that, and I actually put it in my teeth where I can manipulate it and get it warmed up. And then I can put it on there after it's softened up after doing that. But I have
Cool.
to manually work with it to get it where it's soft enough to form.
Interesting.
And it varies a lot when you're collecting it, you know, like what the temperature is. I mean, like if you'd went out to your hives today, you would have some nice soft gooey propolis, you know, in the corners and everything that you know, you could work with readily. I've got some propolis traps that are just, you know, they kind of look like a queen excluder that you can put on top, and the bees will close all those openings up with propolis. So
Yeah, Bill's family did propolis traps as well. And he said they just put propolis on everything, or pollen traps as well, and just sprinkled pollen on everything.
We
Yeah.
had pollen that we would collect, or that he collected in Dallas, but it was very heavily. We were in Cedar Hills, so that gives you an idea of what was growing all around us. And that pollen was black, and it was not particularly tasty. Well, it was tasty, just not very pleasant.
it tasted like chewing on a cedar tree. Yes.
A nasty cedar tree.
Yeah. Wasn't very good, but anyway. So anyway, I think we got some good ideas. I think you know, at least two of them were quite medicinal, and the other one was nutritious. Make use of our waste stream. Anybody got anything else we want to talk about? Not, we'll close it out for tonight. And thanks for coming. See you next week.
Yes, it's just us. I'll talk to you in the morning, Tammy.
Sure enough. Have a great night. Thanks, Winston.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.